The clock struck midnight on New Year's Eve. Champagne glasses clinked inside Monica Lattimore's apartment as celebratory cheers erupted from neighbors' homes. Outside, snowflakes drifted through the cold air as Monica stepped onto her porch to discard a trash bag. The police cruiser idled at the corner, a precaution that would prove fatally inadequate. From the shadows emerged a figure. Monica's breath caught in her throat as recognition flooded her eyes. Darius. 6 years of imprisonment hadn't softened his gaze. As she turned to run, the crack of gunshots cut through distant fireworks. The officers rushed forward, weapons drawn, but they were seconds too late. What happens when the justice system releases a man consumed by vengeance on Christmas Eve? When does obsession transform ordinary pain into deadly purpose? Have you ever felt betrayal cut so deep that forgiveness seemed impossible? For Darius Lattimore, his wife's infidelity created wounds that 6 years behind bars only infected, never healed. Some might ask, what if someone had recognized the warning signs? What if the system hadn't failed both victim and perpetrator? Monica reported her fears to authorities. She changed her routines. She gathered friends around her for protection. Yet none of it was enough. The most disturbing aspect of this case isn't that police watched helplessly as a woman was murdered. It's that everyone saw the tragedy coming, yet no one could stop it. This isn't just about domestic violence. It's about a broken system that releases dangerous individuals without adequate support or supervision. Before we uncover how a holiday release turned into a New Year's execution, take a moment to join our community of critical thinkers. Hit subscribe now and activate notifications so you never miss our weekly deep dives into cases that expose the cracks in our justice system. Unlike other true crime channels, we don't just recount events. We examine the systemic failures and personal choices that create these tragedies. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these crucial stories. What insights will you gain from this case? What warning signs might you recognize in your own community after watching? These questions matter, and your engagement with them matters even more. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts on early release programs. Should violent offenders receive holiday pardons? The conversation you start might just save someone's life. Now let's continue with Darius and Monica's story. Before Darius became a killer and Monica became a victim, they were high school sweethearts from Riverton's West End neighborhood. Their wedding photos showed young faces filled with hope. Monica in nursing scrubs, Darius with grease-stained hands from his mechanic job. They represented the American dream. Work hard, build a family, create something better than what came before. So what transformed love into deadly obsession? How did a marriage dissolve into murder? The answer lies in a complex web of jealousy, betrayal, and institutional neglect that began long before that fatal New Year's Eve. It's a story of red flags ignored, protection orders filed, and a system too overwhelmed to connect the dots. As we follow this case from its beginning to its bloody conclusion, one question haunts everyone involved. Could Monica Lattimore's death have been prevented? The answer might disturb you. Darius Lattimore grew up in Riverton's West End, where opportunities were scarce and expectations even scarcer. The eldest son of a factory worker and a hospital aide, he learned early that respect often came through physical dominance. By 16, he developed a reputation as someone you didn't cross. What neighbors and teachers saw as a troublemaker, Monica saw as misunderstood. Beneath his hard exterior, Darius possessed undeniable talents, mechanical skill that could diagnose engine problems by sound alone, and a photographic memory that recalled conversations verbatim months later. This same memory would later fuel his obsessions. This same attention to detail would later track Monica's routines with military precision. His childhood pastor once described him as a volcano of emotions with no safe way to vent. Darius internalized pain until it transformed into rage, a pattern established long before he met Monica. His capacity for love matched his capacity for anger. Both burned with intensity few could match. Monica Williams met Darius at 19 while working hospital reception to fund nursing school. When her car broke down after a midnight shift, the garage sent Darius. He fixed her radiator at cost and asked only for her number in return. Their courtship glowed with genuine affection. Darius showed up at Monica's nursing classes with home-cooked meals, knowing she often skipped lunch to study. He memorized her medical textbooks alongside her, quizzing her before exams. For her birthday, he restored a vintage desk he'd found at a yard sale, the perfect study space for her small apartment. When Monica's mother fell ill, Darius drove them to doctor appointments, sitting patiently in waiting rooms, never complaining about the hours lost. He charmed her family with his attentiveness and protective nature. Their wedding, modest but joyful, united two of Riverton's oldest families. Monica's college friends marveled at how Darius looked at her, like she was the sun and he was grateful just to orbit her light. They bought a small house near the hospital, painted each room together, and talked about filling those rooms with children. For 3 years, they lived inside that dream, working opposite shifts to save money, meeting in the middle of their shared ambitions. The cracks appeared gradually. Monica's promotion to emergency department nurse meant irregular hours and male colleagues. Darius began calling frequently during shifts, questioning who she worked with. His protectiveness transformed into possession. He insisted on driving her to work, ostensibly for safety. When she received texts, his eyes tracked her reactions. "Who's that?" became his constant question, asked casually but loaded with suspicion. Monica noticed her social circle shrinking. Dinner with college friends was met with sullen silence afterward. "They look down on me," he'd say, making her feel guilty for enjoying their company. Eventually, declining invitations became easier than navigating his moods. Financial control followed. Joint accounts became monitored accounts. He questioned purchases, calculated miles driven against her work schedule, and insisted on approving expenses. "I'm just better with money," he explained. Household decisions required his final approval. When Monica mentioned these behaviors to her mother, she received the dismissive response many women hear. "He works hard and doesn't drink. Count your blessings." The most telling sign came when Monica received a fellowship opportunity. Instead of celebration, Darius questioned her ambition. "Why isn't what we have enough for you?" The hospital's chief resident noticed Monica first. Her clinical skill, her compassion with patients, her quiet competence. Dr. James Chen offered mentorship that evolved into confidences, shared lunches, and eventually an emotional affair. For Monica, Dr. Chen represented everything Darius had ceased to be: supportive of her ambitions, genuinely interested in her thoughts, and respectful of her independence. What began as professional admiration became her escape from a suffocating marriage. Darius discovered their text messages on a Thursday. He waited silently until Sunday dinner at his mother-in-law's home to confront her, ensuring maximum audience for her humiliation. The calculated timing revealed the depth of his vindictiveness. "Tell them who you're sleeping with," he demanded before Monica's entire family. When she attempted to leave, he grabbed her arm with such force it left 5 distinct bruises. Her brother intervened, but not before Darius upended the dinner table, sending glass and food crashing across the dining room. Monica fled to a colleague's apartment that night. When she returned for clothes the next day with her brother, she found her nursing textbook shredded, her scrubs cut to pieces, and her car windshield shattered. The message was clear: if he couldn't have her career or her body, no one would. The protection order came first, then divorce papers. Darius violated the order twice, resulting in overnight jail stays, but no significant consequences. His rage found new targets: anyone connected to Monica. 3 weeks after their separation, Darius spotted Dr. Chen at a gas station. The surveillance footage showed a one-sided attack. Darius swinging a tire iron, continuing to strike even as Chen collapsed. Only bystanders' intervention prevented a murder charge. The judge, noting Darius's escalating violence and disturbing fixation on his ex-wife, sentenced him to 6 years for aggravated assault. The prosecutor had pushed for 10 years, citing text messages where Darius threatened to make Monica suffer for every minute she's with him. As the correctional officers led him away, Darius locked eyes with Monica in the courtroom. "This doesn't end here," he said. The court reporter dutifully recorded his words that would prove prophetic 6 years later. Hollow Creek Correctional Center housed Darius among 1,200 other men. He kept to himself initially, avoiding the complex politics of prison life. By year 2, he'd become a model inmate, attending anger management sessions twice weekly and leading a maintenance crew that repaired facility equipment. His counselor noted significant progress in his quarterly evaluations. Darius learned to speak about his feelings using approved therapeutic language. He acknowledged his inappropriate responses to emotional triggers and demonstrated improved impulse control during confrontations with other inmates. He read extensively: psychology books, religious texts, and legal materials. He maintained a journal as recommended by his therapist, filling 23 notebooks with his thoughts. What the correctional staff couldn't see was the content of those journals: elaborate fantasies of reuniting with Monica, hundreds of pages calculating her daily routines, and detailed plans for their inevitable reconnection, as he called it. His rehabilitation existed only on paper, a performance concealing his true intentions. In December 2022, Riverton's prison system faced unprecedented overcrowding. The state legislature, pressured by budget constraints and activist groups, passed the Holiday Mercy Act, a program releasing nonviolent offenders and those with exemplary behavior records who had served at least 70% of their sentences. Darius's case came before the review board on December 15th. His file showed perfect attendance at rehabilitation programs and zero disciplinary incidents for 4 years. Employment prospects, based on connections with a former inmate who owned an auto shop, appeared promising. The board split their vote 4-3. The dissenting members cited concerns about his original crime's connection to domestic violence and his persistent refusal to acknowledge responsibility for the assault, consistently blaming Dr. Chen for destroying my marriage. The majority focused on measurable metrics: program completion, incident-free record, and institutional overcrowding. Psychological evaluations suggesting persistent fixation on his ex-wife were noted but deemed speculative concerns rather than disqualifying factors. The gates of Hollow Creek opened for Darius on December 24th at 4:17 p.m. The timing, Christmas Eve, carried unintended symbolic weight. While families gathered to celebrate renewal and hope, the system released a man whose only hope focused on retribution. The irony wasn't lost on Monica, who received the standard notification letter just 3 days before. Her Christmas preparations halted as panic set in. The holiday season, meant for joy and connection, transformed into a period of hypervigilance and fear. For Darius, the date represented divine endorsement. "God arranged my release date," he told his parole officer during their first meeting. "Christmas is about second chances." He received $200 in gate money, a bus pass, and a list of halfway houses, all filled for the holiday weekend. No re-entry services operated until after New Year's. The system that deemed him rehabilitated abandoned him at the most vulnerable transition point, with predictable consequences. Darius spent his first night in a 24-hour diner, nursing coffee until dawn. He made calls from the payphone to old friends, finding most numbers disconnected or relationships expired. By December 26th, he slept on a shelter cot, surrounded by men battling addictions and mental illness. He applied for mechanic positions, but his criminal record triggered immediate rejections. Each failure reinforced his belief that Monica had stolen his rightful life. On December 28th, Darius rode buses across town to Monica's neighborhood. He watched her apartment from a coffee shop across the street, noting when lights turned on and off. He followed her to the grocery store, staying just far enough behind to avoid detection. His parole officer, responsible for 57 other cases, scheduled their next check-in for January 10th. The minimal surveillance created a dangerous vacuum. With no job, no housing, and no support system, Darius's obsession crystallized into a countdown toward violence. What do you think? Should holiday release programs include stronger protections for potential victims? Would better transition services have changed Darius's path? Comment below with your thoughts on how the system failed both Monica and Darius. What one change would make the biggest difference in preventing similar tragedies? This conversation matters more than you know. Your insights help us highlight the reforms needed to protect communities and truly rehabilitate offenders. If you're finding value in this examination of systemic failures, please tap that like button and share this video with someone who cares about public safety. Together, we can push for meaningful change. After the divorce, Monica sold their house and moved to Maplewood Heights, a neighborhood 15 miles from her previous life. She transferred to Mercy General's pediatric wing, working night shifts that paid better but kept her exhausted. For 6 months, she slept with a baseball bat beside her bed. Gradually, routine replaced fear. Monica completed her nurse practitioner certification, doubling her salary and securing daytime hours. She purchased a modest 2-bedroom condo with security features, reinforced doors, window alarms, and lobby access controls. She changed her appearance, cutting her once waist-length hair into a practical bob and switching her maiden name back to Williams. Her social media accounts disappeared, replaced by anonymous profiles for keeping up with distant family. Monica established new patterns, different grocery stores, different churches, different coffee shops. She built what safety experts call a low-visibility life, designed to minimize exposure to potential threats. For 5 years, this carefully constructed existence protected her from the man who had once promised to love her forever. Monica Lattimore was 3 when her father went to prison and 9 when he was released. The years between shaped her into a watchful, perceptive child who read adult moods with unsettling accuracy. Monica fought to give her daughter normal experiences despite their circumstances. Aaliyah played basketball, took piano lessons, and attended sleepovers, though each activity required careful vetting of adults involved in locations. Their nightly ritual never varied, Monica checking window locks while Aaliyah pretended not to notice, followed by reading together in Monica's bed. These moments, their voices mingling over story pages, became Aaliyah's foundation of security. When difficult questions arose about her father, Monica navigated truth carefully. "Your father made choices that hurt people. He's paying for those choices now," she explained when Aaliyah was 7. "His actions don't define you." For Aaliyah's 9th birthday, 2 weeks before Darius's release, Monica gave her a cell phone with emergency contacts pre-programmed, protection disguised as a coming-of-age gift. Grace Baptist Church became Monica's sanctuary and social center. She joined the choir, her clear alto rising above the congregation each Sunday. Pastor Williams, no relation but a spiritual father figure, assigned church brothers to walk Monica to her car after evening rehearsals. Her nursing colleagues formed a protective circle around her professional life. They switched shifts when needed, accompanied her to parking lots, and developed coded language for emergencies. "Is Janet working today?" became their alert phrase, signaling potential Darius sightings. Monica's sister Tamara lived 30 minutes away, close enough for Sunday dinners, but far enough that her address wouldn't appear in searches for Monica. Their mother moved in with Tamara after her health declined, creating a family hub where Aaliyah could experience normalcy. The Maplewood Heights Neighborhood Watch knew Monica's situation. Retired Mr. Jenkins walked his dog past her condo several times daily, his presence both comfort and surveillance. These connections, church, work, family, neighborhood, created invisible barriers between Monica and potential danger. The letter arrived 3 weeks before Darius's scheduled release, standard victim notification on Department of Corrections letterhead. Monica stared at the December 24th release date, Christmas Eve mocking her with its cruel timing. "They're letting him out early," she told Pastor Williams, hands shaking. 6 years was already too short, and now they're cutting it down. She immediately implemented long-planned precautions. Aaliyah stayed with Tamara after school. Monica varied her work routes daily. Church members escorted her on errands. The rhythm of hypervigilance returned, checking rearview mirrors, scanning parking lots, sleeping fitfully. 5 days after Darius's release, the direct contact began. First, a blank text from an unknown number, then a voicemail with only breathing. Monica documented each incident meticulously, preserving evidence while trying to maintain normal appearances for Aaliyah's sake. On December 30th, Monica found a note under her windshield wiper. "I've changed. We should talk about Aaliyah." The handwriting, precise block letters she recognized instantly, confirmed her worst fears. Darius had found her despite her precautions. That night, Monica woke at 3 a.m. believing someone was testing her door handle. The security footage showed nothing, but the feeling of being watched persisted, invisible yet suffocating, like carbon monoxide filling her carefully built life. Officer Teresa Diaz took Monica's first report, documenting the notification letter and Monica's safety concerns. "We'll increase patrols in your area," she promised, "but legally we can't prevent him from being in public spaces." Monica filed for an emergency protection order, citing the previous assault conviction and current harassment. Judge Harmon granted a temporary order, but without evidence of direct threats, its parameters remain limited. Darius couldn't approach within 500 feet or contact her directly. The practical enforcement challenges became immediately apparent. Police lacked resources for continuous monitoring, proving a protection order violation required catching Darius in the act. Each suspicious incident existed in a gray area, concerning but not actionable. "Document everything," became Officer Diaz's mantra during their frequent meetings. "We need evidence to build a case." Monica understood the subtext. The system could punish Darius after he violated the order, but it couldn't physically stop him from doing so. That responsibility fell primarily on her own shoulders. By the week between Christmas and New Year's, Darius's thin veneer of rehabilitation had completely fractured. He slept only 2 to 3 hours nightly, spending remaining hours circling Monica's neighborhood on foot. The winter cold barely registered through his growing delirium. His journal entries shifted from calculated plans to fragmented rants. "She thinks she escaped me," he wrote December 27. "No one escapes what they deserve." Pages filled with repetitive phrases: "my family," "my wife," "my child." Possessive declarations that ignored 6 years of legal separation. At the homeless shelter, staff noted concerning behaviors: muttering to himself, explosive anger at minor inconveniences, refusing meals. When a counselor attempted intervention, Darius responded with chilling clarity: "I'm finishing important business, then none of this will matter." The parole system, designed to monitor such warning signs, failed completely. His assigned officer, managing a caseload 3 times the recommended maximum, hadn't confirmed Darius's housing or employment. The checkbox rehabilitation that earned his release provided no meaningful support for his re-entry. In this dangerous vacuum, Darius's obsession metastasized. The man who entered prison with rage toward his unfaithful wife emerged with something more dangerous: absolute conviction that eliminating Monica would restore his rightful life. Darius mapped Monica's life with methodical precision. From a coffee shop across from her condo, he documented her schedule: 7:15 a.m. departure for work, 4:30 p.m. return, Tuesday grocery shopping, Thursday choir practice. He noted which neighbors greeted her, which car she drove, which entrance she used. He followed at calculated distances, never close enough to trigger the protection order, always close enough to maintain visual contact. When Monica shopped, Darius browsed nearby aisles. When she got gas, he watched from adjacent businesses. His presence remained just beyond legal intervention, yet close enough to project constant threat. Most disturbing was his surveillance of Aaliyah. He watched her school bus stop, photographed her basketball practice through chain-link fences, and once followed her to a friend's house. The daughter he hadn't seen in 6 years became another aspect of his obsessive documentation. Monica sensed this invisible monitoring without concrete proof. The prickling awareness of being watched became her constant companion, a psychological torture more effective than direct confrontation. The harassment escalated methodically. Calls came to Monica's phone at significant times: the anniversary of their wedding, Aaliyah's birthday, the date of their divorce finalization. The caller remained silent or simply breathed, hanging up before calls could be traced. Notes appeared in locations suggesting intimate knowledge of her routines: her employee mailbox at the hospital, under her choir hymnal, on her windshield in the secure hospital garage. Each contained phrases from their past, private endearments now weaponized as threats. "Remember when you promised forever? I still hold you to that." "Aaliyah needs her father. She'll understand someday why this happened." Forgiveness comes after punishment. Each message observed legal boundaries while conveying unmistakable menace. None contained explicit threats that would violate parole or protection orders, yet each communicated the same message: "I am watching, I am coming, and no legal paper can stop me." Monica preserved each note as evidence, building a case document by document, while praying it wouldn't become posthumous testimony. Monica transformed her home into a fortress, New deadbolts reinforced doors while security cameras monitored approaches. Neighbors programmed her phone number into speed dial. Mr. Jenkins from the Neighborhood Watch recruited fellow retirees to maintain round-the-clock informal surveillance of her building. Grace Baptist Church implemented a buddy system. No woman walked alone to her car after services. Pastor Williams arranged temporary housing options if emergency relocation became necessary. The choir director adjusted rehearsal schedules to ensure Monica never arrived or left in darkness. At work, hospital security escorted Monica between the building and parking garage. Colleagues arranged schedule swaps, creating unpredictable patterns. The pediatric unit limited visitor access, requiring ID checks against an approved list from which Darius was explicitly excluded. Monica kept a packed emergency bag in her car trunk: clothes, documents, cash, and Aaliyah's medications. She memorized safe house addresses across 3 counties and established daily check-in protocols with her sister Tamara. These precautions reflected a devastating reality. Monica understood institutional protection would ultimately fail her. Riverton Police Department assigned a patrol car to Monica's neighborhood after her protection order filing. Officer Diaz personally drove past the condo during her shifts, documenting any suspicious individuals. The department provided Monica with direct line numbers, bypassing dispatch for emergencies. These measures, while well-intentioned, suffered from practical limitations. Budget constraints prevented dedicated protection. Officers could drive by periodically, but not maintain constant presence. The legal standard for restraining order violations, requiring officers to personally witness prohibited contact, created enforcement gaps. Detective Marcus Harper, assigned to Monica's case, explained the challenge during their meeting. The system is designed to punish violations after they occur, not prevent them from happening. Document everything, build evidence for prosecution. What remained unspoken was the truth both understood. By the time sufficient evidence accumulated for serious intervention, Monica might already be harmed. The patrol car outside her building on New Year's Eve represented both protection and its fundamental inadequacy against determined violence. If you found yourself in Monica's situation, what additional steps would you take to protect yourself? Would you relocate completely, arm yourself, confront your stalker directly? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help someone facing similar circumstances right now. The dangerous reality is that thousands of Americans live under threats similar to Monica's every day. If this story resonates with your experiences or someone you know, please share this video to spread awareness about protection order limitations. Hit subscribe now to follow this case to its conclusion and join our community dedicated to exposing systemic failures in victim protection. Monica's New Year's Eve gathering began at 8 p.m. Traditional Southern dishes covered her dining table: black-eyed peas for luck, collard greens for prosperity, cornbread for gold. 12 guests filled the modest condo with laughter and music, creating a pocket of normalcy amid weeks of mounting tension. Pastor Williams and his wife brought sparkling cider for midnight toasts. 3 families from church attended, their children playing board games with Aaliyah in her bedroom. Monica's nursing colleagues arrived after their shifts ended. Tamara managed the kitchen, watching her sister with concerned eyes, noting how Monica checked the window blinds every 20 minutes. Monica had considered canceling the annual tradition, but stubbornness prevailed. "I refuse to let fear steal everything," she told Tamara that morning while chopping onions. "Aaliyah deserves one normal night." The television broadcast showed Times Square crowds counting down hours to midnight. Adults discussed resolutions, while Monica distributed party hats and noisemakers, her smile genuine, but eyes vigilant. At 11:40 p.m., the trash bags needed emptying. Monica waved off Pastor Williams's offer to help. "I'll just run these to the dumpster. Back in 2 minutes." She hugged Aaliyah before stepping out, an unconscious final embrace that would haunt witnesses for years afterward. Darius had positioned himself near the complex dumpsters at 7 p.m., darkness and recycling bins providing adequate cover. The temperature had dropped to 28 degrees, but he felt nothing. Not cold, not hunger, not doubt. For 4 hours, he observed guests arriving, cataloging faces, constructing narratives about their relationships with Monica. Each laugh that filtered through partially open windows reinforced his conviction. She had built this new life by destroying his. He counted this theft among her crimes. The 9mm handgun he'd purchased from a shelter resident for $200 pressed against his waistband. He'd practiced drawing it smoothly, eliminating fumbling that might provide warning. The ammunition, purchased separately from a different source, filled the magazine completely. No half measures tonight. Through parted blinds, he glimpsed Monica moving between guests, touching shoulders, refreshing drinks. The confident woman before him bore little resemblance to the frightened one who had testified at his sentencing. This transformation fueled his resentment. She had flourished while he suffered. When lights across the street dimmed temporarily, revealing the outline of a police cruiser, Darius noted its position without concern. The officers inside represented an impotent system, one he had navigated and manipulated successfully. They posed no meaningful obstacle to his purpose. Monica pushed the door open with her hip, both hands occupied with overfilled trash bags. Steam rose from her breath in the cold air as she walked quickly toward the dumpsters. The security light cast long shadows across the parking area. Darius stepped forward just as she heaved the bags into the container. Monica froze, recognition and fear washing over her face in rapid succession. The distance between them, 15 feet, closed as Darius advanced deliberately. "Please," Monica said, backing away, hands raised. "Aaliyah needs me." "You took my daughter." Darius's voice emerged flat, emotionless. "You took my life." Monica turned to run toward the police cruiser, now visible at the complex entrance. Darius drew the handgun with practiced efficiency, firing twice. The first shot struck her lower back, causing her to stumble. The second hit her shoulder as she fell. Monica crawled toward the sidewalk, leaving a dark trail on fresh snow. Neighbors' windows lit up at the gunshots. Doors opened. Someone screamed. Darius approached calmly, standing over Monica's struggling form. Their eyes met, hers pleading, his empty. He fired a final shot at point-blank range. The New Year's countdown echoed from apartments around them. 5, 4, 3 exclamation mark. Monica's body went still as celebratory cheers erupted across the neighborhood. Officers Ramirez and Cooper sat in their patrol vehicle at the complex entrance, completing paperwork between regular perimeter checks. Their presence fulfilled the department's promise of increased patrols, while acknowledging resource limitations that prevented dedicated protection. The first gunshot triggered immediate response. Cooper called for backup while Ramirez drove toward the sound, activating lights but not sirens to avoid alerting the shooter. Their dashboard camera recorded their approach. 23 seconds from first shot to their arrival at the scene. They exited the vehicle with weapons drawn, shouting commands at Darius, who stood motionless over Monica. Backup remained 4 minutes away. Officer Ramirez approached cautiously while Cooper provided cover, both following protocol for armed suspect containment. The officers' body cameras captured their perspective. Monica beyond immediate medical help, Darius still armed. The tense standoff as residents emerged from apartments despite officers' warnings to stay inside. Department review would later determine both officers followed proper procedure. The patrol assignment had met departmental obligations while effectively providing zero actual protection. The investigation concluded what Monica had known all along. Proximity of law enforcement without authority to intervene proactively created only an illusion of safety. The protection order that limited Darius's movements had ultimately proved as effective as the paper it was printed on. Inside the apartment, partygoers dropped to the floor at the sound of gunshots. Pastor Williams gathered children in the bathroom, while Tamara desperately tried calling Monica's cell phone. Aaliyah broke free from restraining arms, rushing toward the door before adults could react. Outside, Darius dropped his weapon only after multiple commands, kneeling with hands raised as Officer Cooper approached with handcuffs. His expression remained vacant, his compliance mechanical. When asked for his name, he responded, "I'm Darius Lattimore." I fixed what was broken. As Officer Ramirez secured the scene, neighbors emerged from surrounding units. Their phones recorded the aftermath: Monica's body on blood-stained snow, Darius in handcuffs, officers establishing a perimeter with yellow tape. These videos would circulate online before sunrise. transforming a personal tragedy into public spectacle. Aaliyah's screams cut through the chaos as she pushed past adults attempting to block her view. Her collapse beside her mother's body, prevented from touching her by officers preserving evidence, became the defining image of that night. The arrest procedure unfolded by the book. Rights read, suspects secured, scene preserved. But the systematic processing of Darius Lattimore only highlighted the system's fundamental failure. Perfect procedure after prevention had already proven impossible. The State versus Lattimore trial began 8 months after Monica's murder. The courthouse overflowed daily with community members, domestic violence advocates, and media representatives. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence: surveillance footage, witness testimony, forensic documentation, and Darius's own statements at the scene. Defense attorneys attempted an insanity plea, arguing prison had exacerbated Darius's mental health issues. Their psychiatric expert testified about obsessive fixation disorder and institutional trauma response. The prosecution countered with evidence of Darius's meticulous planning and clear awareness of his actions. Throughout proceedings, Darius sat motionless, eyes forward, responding only when directly addressed. When offered the opportunity to speak before sentencing, his statement shocked even veteran courtroom reporters. "I completed what needed completion," he stated flatly. "The law calls this murder. I call it correction. Monica chose to destroy our family. Her death restored proper order." Judge Elaine Washington, a 30-year judicial veteran, delivered the maximum sentence: life without possibility of parole. Her closing remarks addressed Darius directly. "Your statements reveal not mental illness, but dangerous entitlement. You believed you owned another human being. This court affirms what you refuse to acknowledge. Monica Williams had every right to live free from your control, and her death represents justice denied, not justice served." The case ignited national conversations about domestic violence, protection order enforcement, and early release policies. Cable news segments featured split-screen debates between victims' advocates and criminal justice reformers, both citing Monica's murder as evidence supporting their positions. Local outlets focused on community impact. The Riverton Chronicle's 6-part investigative series, Protected on Paper, documented 50 similar cases where protection orders failed to prevent violence. Their reporting prompted the City Council to allocate emergency funding for dedicated domestic violence response units. Grace Baptist Church established the Monica Williams Safety Network, providing transportation, temporary housing, and security assessments for domestic violence survivors. Membership grew to 17 churches across 3 counties within 6 months. Hospital staff organized professionally, lobbying for workplace protections, including secure parking areas, escort services, and privacy protections for employee records. The resulting Monica's Law passed the state legislature with rare bipartisan support. Public outrage crystallized around the holiday release program that freed Darius. Community members packed budget hearings, demanding explanations from corrections officials who insisted they had followed established protocols. The contradiction between procedural compliance and catastrophic outcome exposed fundamental flaws in systems designed to balance rehabilitation with public safety. The Department of Corrections Internal Review identified multiple disconnected systems that collectively enabled tragedy. The early release evaluation had considered Darius's prison behavior while minimizing his original offense's domestic violence components. Risk assessment tools measured general recidivism factors, but inadequately weighted intimate partner violence indicators. The parole supervision system's overwhelming caseloads meant officers averaged just 12 minutes monthly per parolee. Darius's officer managed 78 cases simultaneously, making meaningful monitoring impossible. Housing shortages for released inmates pushed Darius toward homeless shelters, where supervision was minimal and acquisition of weapons relatively simple. Victim notification protocols informed Monica of Darius's release, but offered no practical protection beyond standardized safety planning pamphlets. The 72-hour notice period provided insufficient time to implement significant safety measures. Her protection order lacked enforcement mechanisms beyond documenting violations after they occurred. Police department policies prioritize responding to actual violence rather than preventing potential threats. Limited resources meant increased patrols, translated to occasional drive-bys rather than dedicated protection. Monica's extensive documentation of stalking behavior warranted concern but not intervention under existing legal frameworks. These intersecting failures represented not individual negligence, but systemic design flaws, a justice system responsive to completed crimes, but structurally incapable of preventing them, particularly those stemming from intimate partner violence. Aaliyah, 10 years old and twice orphaned, first by incarceration, then by murder and life imprisonment, moved permanently into Tamara's home. Trauma manifested as nightmares, academic struggles, and rage episodes that confounded even specialized therapists. Despite these challenges, glimpses of resilience emerged. Her basketball coach noted her fierce concentration. Her art teacher preserved drawings capturing complex emotions beyond her verbal expression abilities. Tamara established college funds using community donations, creating tangible evidence of possible futures. When asked during therapy what she wanted others to understand, Aaliyah answered with devastating clarity, "My mom did everything right, followed every rule. The system protected my father's rights more than her life." Riverton implemented the Williams Protocol 1 year after Monica's murder, fundamentally changing how domestic violence cases were handled. The reforms included dedicated protective details for high-risk victims, GPS monitoring for released offenders with domestic violence histories, and specialized training for all officers. The Department of Corrections revised early release evaluations, creating a domestic violence risk matrix that weighted intimate partner violence factors more heavily. Parole officer caseloads were capped at 30, with specialized domestic violence supervision units established in each district. Most significantly, the state legislature funded interagency communication systems connecting courts, police departments, and victim services, ending the information silos that had prevented coordinated protection efforts in Monica's case. The Monica Williams Nursing Scholarship launched 6 months after her death, initially funded by hospital colleagues who collected donations at her funeral. The program supports nursing students who demonstrate Monica's defining qualities: clinical excellence, compassion, and commitment to vulnerable populations. Mercy General Hospital matches all donations, creating 2 full-ride scholarships annually for students focusing on emergency care or pediatrics, Monica's specialties. Recipients commit to 2 years of service in underserved communities upon graduation. Tamara presents the scholarships each spring during Nursing Appreciation Week, sharing stories of her sister's impact on patients and colleagues. The ceremony includes testimonials from families Monica cared for during her career, preserving her professional legacy alongside her personal story. "My sister believed healthcare was an act of justice," Tamara explained at the 5th anniversary ceremony. These scholarships ensure her approach to nursing, treating the person, not just the condition, continues through new generations of caregivers. When these students enter hospital rooms, Monica's spirit of healing enters with them. Monica Lattimore graduated high school at 16 and entered college with a clear mission: transforming victim protection systems. Her psychology studies focused on trauma recovery, while her political science minor equipped her to navigate policy reform. By 20, she launched Before Midnight, a national advocacy organization named for the final moments of her mother's life. The organization focuses on 3 areas: strengthening protection order enforcement, expanding transitional housing for domestic violence survivors, and addressing the response gap between documented threats and meaningful intervention. Her testimony before congressional committees combines statistical analysis with personal experience, creating powerful arguments for system reform. "My mother's murder wasn't a failure of recognition. Everyone recognized the danger. It was a failure of response capacity," she frequently explains to legislators. Despite offers to share her story on true crime platforms, Aaliyah declines participation in content that treats her mother's murder as entertainment. "I'm interested in prevention, not dramatization," she notes. "My mother deserved protection, not posthumous attention." Monica's story reveals uncomfortable truths about protection systems built to document violence rather than prevent it. Her case exemplifies how responsibility falls predominantly on victims, who must uproot their lives while potential perpetrators move freely until crossing legal thresholds for intervention. Effective prevention requires community vigilance beyond official systems. Neighbors, colleagues, friends, and family must recognize that domestic violence thrives in silence and isolation. Protection cannot rely solely on overworked police departments or understaffed social services. Each domestic violence homicide represents multiple missed intervention opportunities. The question isn't simply how systems failed, but how bystanders, all of us, might recognize and respond to warning signs before tragedy becomes inevitable. What warning signs might you recognize in relationships around you? Share your insights in the comments. Your observation could help someone identify a dangerous situation before it escalates. If this analysis of system failures and community responsibility resonated with you, please like this video and share it with people who need this information. Your engagement helps these crucial stories reach those who most need to hear them. Subscribe now for our upcoming episode examining successful interventions that prevented similar tragedies. Together, we're building awareness that saves lives. Remember, protection orders document danger. Community action prevents it. Join our conversation about creating safety beyond paperwork and transforming how we protect vulnerable lives.